Bonjour classe, aujourd'hui on va discuter le choix des articles. So as we've been talking about in class, we've been using les articles définis, les articles indéfinis, et les articles partitifs. So if you think a little bit in English, when you're talking about a noun, you don't always have to use an article. But in French, grammatically, you must always use an article when you are referring to in nouns. We're going to talk a little bit today about which article do you choose to complete the sentence to use in your sentence correctly. So we have a little chart here that's going to lead us through the process for selecting the correct article to use dans une phrase. So the very first thing that we're going to look for in a sentence is we're going to look for les verbes de préférence. Les verbes de préférence. Et en français, il y a 4 verbes de préférence. Les verbes de préférence sont aimer, adorer, détester et préférer. So anytime we're using un verbe de préférence, like aimer, adorer, détester ou préférer, the article that we're going to use is going to be les articles définis. And as we remember, en français, il y a 4 articles définis, le, la, et l'apostrophe, et les. Anytime we use un verbe de préférence, anytime we see aimer, adorer, détester ou préférer, the article that we're going to use before the noun is l'article défini. Alors, deux exemples comme j'aime les tomates. Et en verbe de préférence, aimer, on va utiliser l'article défini, les. J'aime les tomates. Another example avec détester, elle déteste l'agneau. She hates lamb. Elle déteste l'agneau. Okay, so again, if we're using a verbe de préférence, we're going to use an article défini, le, la, l'apostrophe ou les. Another time we would use les articles définis when we're talking about something en général. General likes, general dislikes, talking about something en général. Okay, so again, the very first thing we're going to look for to help us decide which article we're going to use, are we using un verbe de préférence? Aimer, adorer, détester, ou préférer. If there is no verbe de préférence that you are using, you're going to keep going dans le processus, and you're going to look for either la négation ou une quantité. Now we're going to get into les quantités la semaine prochaine. But if you don't have un verbe de préférence, you're going to continue and you see that it's une phrase négative, we're going to use two different articles. We'll either use de ou des apostrophes. We'll use des apostrophes if your noun starts with a vowel or a vowel sound. Even if it's plural, even if your noun is plural, we're going to use de ou des apostrophes. So again, a sentence with la négation, elle ne boit jamais de tea. She never drinks tea. Okay, so it's not, if we look at the verb, so it's boire. Okay, it comes from the verb boire, so it's not a verb de préférence. Okay, so we're going to keep going in the processus. We see, oh, ne jamais, we know it's négatif, so we're going to use de dans la phrase. I want you to look at one sentence here, one other example with une phrase négative. So if I wrote, je n'aime pas le thon. I don't like tuna. You may be thinking, looking at the sentence and thinking, Monsieur, that's not right. It's a negative sense. We need to use de. The most important thing is you have to look at le verbe. Okay? Yes, it is a negative sentence, but your verb, aime, is a verbe de préférence. So with our verbe de préférence, regardless of if it's affirmative or négatif, we're going to use les articles définis. All other verbs that aren't un verbe de préférence, we will use de ou des apostrophes dans une phrase négative. Okay? So again, we start, is there a verbe de préférence in the sentence? If there is, affirmative ou négatif, we're going to use les articles définis. If there's no verbe de préférence in our sentence, we're going to keep going. Is there la négation or is there une quantité? If there is, we're going to use de ou des apostrophes. In toute autre situation. In all other situations. In toute autre situation, we're either going to use les articles indéfinis. Les articles indéfinis comme un, une ou des. Okay. Or we're going to use les articles partitifs. Okay. Les articles partitifs. Remember, les articles partitifs talking about some of something. So we have du, de la, de l'apostrophe, ou des, again, if it's plural. Okay, so toute autre situation, we would use les articles indéfinis ou les articles partitifs. Okay, so when we maybe use les articles indéfinis as opposed to les articles partitifs. Okay, so again, if you look at je mange un poisson. Je mange un poisson. I am eating a fish. We say un poisson, it's complete, it's a whole fish. Je mange un poisson. But if we wanted to say elle mange du poisson. She's eating some fish, some of a fish. Elle mange du poisson. So again, un poisson, a fish, an entire, a whole fish. Du poisson would be some fish. Final example, nous mangeons des poissons. Now we're going to use des in this instance if we're talking about the poisson is plural. So we are eating some fish if it's several fish. Deux poissons, trois poissons, quatre poissons. So we use des if the noun here is plural. The difference between du poisson is some of a fish. Des poissons is several fish. That's when we would use des in those instances. So with toute autre situation, with les articles indéfinis, les articles partitifs, we just have to look at the situation and see if it's going to be, if it makes sense logically in what you're trying to say. Same thing with une tarte. Would be a whole pie. Or if we have de la tarte, would be some pie. De la tarte. So if we say je mange une tarte, I'm eating a pie, that's a lot of pie to be eating. So we're most likely going to say je mange de la tarte, I'm eating some pie. So that's where we're going to go with les articles indéfinis et les articles partitifs. Okay? Alors again, so if you're choosing your articles, we're always going to start and look to see if there's un verbe de préférence. Okay? If there's aimer, adorer, détester, préférer, if any of these verbs are used in either an affirmative or a negative sentence, we're going to use les articles définis, le, la, l'apostrophe, ou les. If it's not un verbe de préférence, we're going to find and see if there's une négation or une quantité. If there is la négation, une quantité, and it doesn't use un verbe de préférence, we're going to use de ou des apostrophes. Again, des apostrophes we use if your noun starts with a vowel or a vowel sound. If it's not un verbe de préférence, ce n'est pas une phrase négative, il n'y a pas de quantité. Dans toute autre situation, all other situations, we're going to use either les articles définis, un, une ou des, ou les articles partitifs, du, de la, de l'apostrophe ou des. Merci, au revoir.